Hi, everybody, and welcome to our next set of videos. In the next few videos, I want to show you some tips and tricks for working with large data sets. So we've had some workbooks that have had a decent amount of data, but in the workbook that we're dealing with today, we have over 500 lines of data or 500 rows. So we're getting a little bit bigger, and this is pretty common to have some really large data sets. So I'm going to show you some tricks on how you can view it a little bit easier in Excel and work with it as well. So I'm using the Chapter 6 Excel file for our chapter here, and I have the documentation page. There's a dashboard page as well, an employee page, and a data definition page. So I just want to start with the employee sheet here. And just kind of give a few little tips and tricks here. So one thing to note is we do have some really nice headings in formatting to make this easy to read and follow. So as we're looking here, we can see ID for employee ID numbers, first name, last name, what department they work in, their hire date, where their office is, salary, bonus, and so on. So we have all of our data organized. This is a pretty standard format for Excel, where you use your columns as the different fields, so meaning like the different categories that we're looking at. And then we tend to use the rows as our data. So each row is one person, so all of their data is going across. And of course, you can do it different ways as well. If you want to flip this orientation, you can as well, but this tends to be a very common setup. The other thing you want to notice is that all the columns are touching here. So when using this very common setup for Excel, Excel recognizes this as what's called a data range, meaning that it understands that this data sort of all goes together. And that, this first row here, it's people, but it's all the same person. So there's a relationship between these columns and rows in this case. So it's something that is programmed into Excel to understand. If you are trying to enter new data that doesn't have the same format, so maybe you'd like to have another column here, but it doesn't go by employees or it's something totally different, then I would recommend either using a new sheet or making sure you put at least one or two columns, blank columns in between. Otherwise, Excel will interpret like the next column as part of the data range and think that it's still employee data going down the line. So again, if you do need to change up your format, maybe you want to do some other calculations or something like that, leave extra space in between the data range and your new calculation. So insert an extra column that is blank or two if you want to, or create a new worksheet instead. All right, so let's just go ahead and talk about viewing first of all. So obviously there is a lot of data here, right? I can scroll through left to right to see all my columns. And then I can also scroll down as well. And you can see here that we have 538 rows in this particular worksheet. So it's quite a lot. There's a lot of employees at this company. So sometimes it may be difficult to sort of view all the data at once, right? Perhaps I would like to kind of keep my first piece of information a little bit more fixed, so I can scroll through the other information and not have to constantly go back and forth, right? So let's say I'm looking at Anne here, and I'd like to know, Anne's commission. Well, I'm kind of constantly scrolling here, right? Oh, okay, there's her commission or his commission. There's the first name. Okay, there's the sick days. There's the first name, right? It's very difficult to do. You could obviously zoom out a little bit. So if your data is not too large column-wise, you could try zooming out and that helps. But there are ways to actually break your screen up into different panes, almost like different window panes. So let me show you how to do that. Excuse me. So the first thing you're going to do is hit the View tab, because this is all about viewing. And on the right side here in the window section, you're going to see lots of different options. The first one here allows you to split your viewing windows. And this is a little bit different than we've seen in other videos where we've arranged the different worksheets and windows to see them all at once. So here we're focusing on just this particular worksheet, but it's just so cumbersome that I'm having a hard time viewing it all. So I'm going to click the split feature. And it's a little hard to tell, but you can see that there's one bar that went in here and then another bar that went in this way. And if I unclick it, it goes away. So kind of take a look at my screen, or maybe I'll click over here to put it more in the middle so you can see it better. So if I click that split, you see a darker bar go this way vertically, and then another one go horizontally. And you can see that it creates 4 windows or panes or sections of my worksheet here. And you can move these. So, maybe, let's not do that. So see that double bar there? That will allow me to move where that vertical split occurs. And notice at the bottom here, you now have 2 different scrolls. So I can, leave this one fixed, for instance, and then I could scroll through this one on the right. I can, and again, it goes through all columns. So you're not freezing anything. It's just that you're allowing 2 different scrolling windows here. And you also have one horizontally as well. So here's the horizontal one. And again, I can just click it and drag it to where I would like it on my screen here. And again, you'll see 2 different horizontal scrollers as well. So the first one is for the top part of the data, and you can see they scroll together. And the second one is for the bottom part. So again, maybe I want to look at 2 different employees. One employee is down here at row 534, another one is at row 6, and I can view them on the same screen here, which is really helpful, particularly with these really large data sets. So again, I encourage you to kind of play around with these different windows. And again, you can put that where you want to. If you want to have one window kind of be smaller or have it more of an equal split, you can play around. And like I said, each window allows you to view all columns or all rows. So it's just kind of 4 different ways to view the same worksheet. And again, it really allows you to, I like it to kind of keep one part fixed and then kind of move another so you can compare employees at very different parts of the worksheet or columns as well. When you're done with that, you can just click again the split feature and it'll go back to normal. So you're not stuck with that split window the entire time. Or if you decide that you don't like it or you're done with it, you can turn it on and off very easily. You can also freeze panes as well. So for instance, there's a couple easy freeze options. And again, I'm in the same section here. So I'm under view over here by window. So under freeze panes, they do have one that will automatically freeze the top row for you. So if I scroll down now, you're going to notice that top row doesn't move. So a lot of times the top row may have helpful headers or information in it. You can also freeze the first column or both at the same time. So this fixes, first column here. So let me go this way. And you can see that ID stays fixed. Again, super helpful in this case. So I can leave my ID and scroll through all the employee information. And you can also customize. Okay, and also when I'm all done, I'm going to hit unfreeze and it'll go back to normal. But you can also customize where you want the freeze to occur. So for instance, your book encourages you to click the cell D5. So what happens here is that it will freeze to the left of this and also above it. So the cell that you click here sort of shows like where that freeze is going to end. And if I click freeze panes, I just click freeze panes here. So this is more of a customized freeze. And you can see a little bit that it highlighted very, very lightly where that freeze occurs. And if you watch now, you can see that those first 4 rows are frozen. Remember, we click cell D5, so the rows above are frozen when I go in a downward direction here. And then when I go left to right, the first 3 columns are frozen. So again, I clicked D5, so it freezes kind of above and to the left of it. And you can go in either direction. So here again, we're scrolling and the first 4 rows are fixed, which again is very helpful that I have all my headers there. And then going this way, I'm freezing the first few columns, which again, in this case is super helpful because I can see my employees and look at that data as well there. So it's just something to kind of check out and just play around with some of these different features. Again, very helpful when you're trying to view very large sets of data, all on the same, tiny computer screen, or even if you have multiple screens. I know I have 2 screens in my office. It's still not enough, right? So these features are really helpful, again, when trying to view that large data.